Hello everybody! Today I'm going to be revealing the secrets behind Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and 2. Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I haven't really gotten the story of it yet because I haven't even played it yet. So, yeah. Watch the video. Transition. An entertainment restaurant called Fredbear's Family Diner opens. The main attraction of the restaurant is 4 animatronic robot animals that entertain the kids: Freddy, called Fredbear at the time, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Perhaps due to the unknowingly good technology, the animatronics have a certain level of sentience to them, but nothing extreme or bad at this time, nothing beyond wanting to do their duty of bringing happiness to the children. The puppet is also part of the entertainment, but doesn't really have as much sentience as the animatronics do. Evidence for this is that the original restaurant that Fungi mentions on Night 5 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and the old location he refers to on Night 1 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Since the missing children incident occurs on June 9 of 1987, the restaurant has been established before then. But 20 years prior to the events of the original Five Nights at Freddy's, since Fungi mentions on Night 1 of that game that the animatronics have been singing the same stupid songs for 20 years. Before June 1987, one day during Fredbear's Family Diner's normal operation hours, a company employee dressed in the company's signature purple uniform pulls up to the front of the restaurant in a car, murders a child that was crying outside, then gets back in the car to drive off. Freddy, or Fredbear, who was busy doing his usual task of giving cake to demanding children inside the restaurant, noticed the child outside and wanted to save him, but his programming prevented him from leaving. A few witnesses saw that the suspect was a Fredbear employee due to his purple uniform, but no one could identify him, and he was never found. The spirit of the murdered child wanders in the restaurant and takes possession of the puppet. Evidence: the take cake to the children minigame. The purple person who obviously murdered the crying child. The fact that he drove up in a car makes it obvious that this murder occurred outside the restaurant, perhaps on a curb near the front of the entrance. The fact that during the minigame we hear a robotic voice calling out "save him" while Freddy is giving cake to the other children is evidence that it could be his voice telling himself that he should save that child, but being unable to ignore his programmed duties as a restaurant mascot. The reason I believe the child's spirit possessed the puppet is because the puppet jump scares at the end of this minigame, and it makes sense in terms of the events that I'll describe later. The company tries to keep this incident out of the press as much as possible with some success, but the story still gets around through the word of mouth. They soon decide that changing the company name might help, so they officially become Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and change the name of their mascot character accordingly. The original owner is replaced with a new one as well. Regardless, the restaurant starts to suffer some sales decreases. The phone guy may have been hired around this time for some kind of supervisor position and occasional night duties. Evidence: on Night 5 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the phone guy refers to an original owner called Fredbear's Family Diner, so the restaurant must have changed owners at some point. This would be a likely time for that. I feel that the phone guy was hired around this time with occasional night duties because during both games he has extensive knowledge about the behavior of the animatronics and all the shady events that go on at the restaurant from this point on. And because he always seems to take side with the company in all his phone messages, try not to let any bad news slip, and come up with scientific reasons for why the animatronics act the way they do. He's probably in a higher position than a low-level employee who doesn't know anything, and is under pressure from the company trying to make sure everyone below him doesn't know the truth. June 26, 1987. The missing children incident occurs. Another murderous employee remains inside the restaurant after his day shift and dresses up inside the Golden Freddy costume. He manages to lure 5 children into the back room soon after the place closes and murder them. He decides to stuff their bodies in the empty mascot suits, taking off the one he's wearing first, and put one child inside. After that, he suddenly feels like someone else is in the building watching him. In his panic, he runs by the surveillance cameras, getting his identity caught on tape. Along the way, the Foxy senses the 5 children's distress and comes over there to save them, only to find them all dead. Before the man can leave, Foxy bites him, severing his frontal lobe. The puppet finds the bodies of the 4 children. He tries giving them gifts, which is the only thing he knows that makes children happy, and is his daily role at the prize corner during business hours. When they don't respond, he binds each of their bodies and souls inside the 4 animatronics. The 5th child's spirit possesses the Golden Freddy costume that he was stuffed inside. By now it's early morning and the police will rise at the scene, finding the employee surprisingly not dead and the video footage of him trying to flee the scene of the crime. The restaurant is searched, but to everyone's surprise, the bodies of the children were never found. The Golden Freddy costume is kept around in case it can help identifying the murderer. Evidence. The missing children incident took place on June 26, 1987, according to the newspaper clippings from the original Five Nights at Freddy's. So it must have occurred about 5 months prior to the start of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which takes place on November 1987. Foxy's minigame clearly shows a time when he was one of the main animatronics coming out of the Pirate Cove, much up to the delight of the children, so it must have been before the events of both games. Also shown in the minigame is the one time he came out and found the 5 children dead with the purple guy employees close by. His jump scare follows at this point in the minigame, so it's likely he attacks the employee, and this is the so-called Bite of 87. The Give Gifts, Give Life minigame shows the puppet doing as he described, first giving 4 dead children gifts, then turning each of them into 4 main animatronics. Since the 5 children went missing, and because we don't see the puppet putting the 5th child in any animatronics, the 5th child apparently pops up at the end, just 1 frame before the Golden Freddy attacks you, and we see the jump scare at the end of this minigame. The summer of 1987. Once again, the company tries to cover up the entire story, but only to succeed in making people believe that only 2 children were lured away and murdered by the employee instead of 5. Eventually, it comes to light that a total of 5 children were linked to the incident. Their sales begin to rapidly decrease, suspecting that Foxy may have malfunctioned and bit the former employee during the incident. Pirate's Cove is closed down, and he is kept inactive behind the curtain, which further hurts the sales since he was one of the most popular characters. A new safety precaution is implemented, which is not to let the animatronics roam freely during the day. The final blow comes when the parents and other restaurant patrons begin to report a foul odor coming from the remaining 3 animatronics, as well as blood and mucus seemingly oozing from their eyes and mouth. Reports are made to the police, and the company decides to dismantle all of the animatronics to get to the bottom of this. However, they don't find anything of note inside. Evidence. The newspaper clippings from the first Five Nights at Freddy's describes these events. Since the 4 original animatronics are broken and dismantled at the beginning of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, seemingly being replaced by the new animatronics, it's likely they were taken apart this time as a result of all these incidents. Without the finances to put the animatronics back together, and sales continuing to decrease, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is officially closed down. For example, in Night 1 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the film guy makes it seem that the restaurant has been recently closed down and then reopened. The newspaper ad at the very beginning also makes this very clear too. So the old location must have been closed before the new establishment opened in November of 1987 at the beginning of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Early November 1987. After months of being left to rot, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is reopened and moved to another location. In an attempt to give the company a new image, cuter animatronics are made. Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, Toy Freddy, Balloon Boy, and Mangle. Not wanting to take any chances of having another criminally inclined employee, the company also gives the new animatronics facial recognition tied to a criminal database, because the company feels like these new animatronics won't have any problems like the old ones. They were allowed to free roam during the day. The dismantled and smelly ones are kept as spare parts in a separate room. The puppet resumes its position as a mascot of the prize corner, and the tune of the music box is there that he always listened to in the old location as well. So long as it plays, he'll forget his goal of seeking revenge on the man in the purple and will be at peace. Evidence. The phone calls on nights 1 and 2 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 describes pretty much all of this. The first time security guard is hired at the new location. Unbeknown to anyone, he is the same employee that murdered the crying child all those months ago and was never caught. Sensing his return, the spirits of the dead children bound to the animatronics begin to haunt the building, causing them to move around and seek out the restaurant employee that murdered them. They even possess the new animatronics and have them act in a similar fashion. During his first speak, the new guard notices the animatronics wandering around and trying to get into the office. He expresses his concern and is moved to the day shift. Evidence. Once again, the phone call on night 1 says that the previous security guard before Jeremy Fitzgerald complained of conditions and was moved to the day shift. Although the vengeful spirits of the dead children are still haunting the animatronics, it's plausible that they can extend their control to the new animatronics too. The reason I believe he's the same guy that murdered the crying child is explained later. November 10th, 1987. Night 3 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 occurs. At the end of his day shift, the original guard that was hired for the night shift, before Jeremy and the one who got away with killing the crying child, decides to reenact the missing children incident. The main reason he returned to the company, despite risking his cover being blown, is because he desires to kill even more children, so he decides to mimic what the employee from the previous incident did. Put on the Golden Freddy costume, lure 5 children away, and murder them in the restaurant right after the restaurant closed for the day. He tampers with the facial recognition system of the new animatronics so they'll be more aggressive to the other people except him. Then he flees the restaurant, confident that he'll be able to go into hiding again and no one will find him. Evidence. Here's where things get tricky. Another unfortunate incident must have happened during the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 based on the phone guy's messages for night 3 to night 6. I suspect it must have taken place before Jeremy's shift on night 3 because the phone guy tells him that night not to believe any recent rumors he hears and it has nothing to do with the company no matter how tragic. Going by the one remaining death minigame that hasn't been accounted for yet, Freddy's Save Them minigame, which revealed that more children were murdered in the restaurant by the purple guy. This is probably when the event takes place. It appears like it could be a memory of the missing children incident, like the other minigames. But the reason it isn't so is because the new animatronics are seen on the show stage, and the old ones are seen in the parts and service also. So this minigame must take place during Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and thus after the missing children incident. I say 5 children were murdered because that's how many dead ones are seen during the Save Them minigame. It couldn't have been the same man from the missing children incident that killed them, since they had been captured by the police in June, and was likely a vegetable due to having its frontal lobe bitten off. So, it must be another employee. I say it's another employee as opposed to anyone else because, once again, he appears purple in Freddy's minigame, and also because of what Phone Guy says on night 5 about the building being on lockdown due to previous employees. The reason I think he wears a Golden Freddy suit is because Phone Guy mentions this in his message on night 6, saying that someone got in, used the yellow suit, and the same one used in, and then he trails off. At this point, but he obviously referring to a missing children incident from June, when that employee used the same suit. Freddy and the puppet sense the distress of the children, but are too late to save them. They find their bodies at the guard, try to hide in random parts of the restaurant with pools of blood all over. The puppet sadly returns to his box at the prize corner while Freddy stands over the body of one of the children and laments that he couldn't save them again. Evidence. This is the Save Them minigame. Police are called to the scene and find the dead children. Fazbear Entertainment tries to their best to get the whole matter quickly cleaned up and hushed up as much as possible via paying large sums of money. When Jeremy comes onto his shift some hours later, the restaurant has been cleaned up as if nothing ever happened there. The phone guy tries to act like nothing's wrong by going on about Foxy in his message. Eventually, he tells Jeremy not to believe any local stories he might be hearing, and that it has nothing to do with their establishment. He tries to avert any suspicion toward the employee who committed the crime, too, saying that he reported nothing unusual during his day shift. The animatronics are more aggressive this night due to the horror that occurred earlier. November 11th, 1987. Night 4 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 occurs. Despite their best efforts, Fazbear Entertainment is forced to concede to further investigation by the authorities due to the previous day's incident. Phone Guy once again tries to smooth things over in his message to Jeremy, saying that there's an investigation going on and the restaurant may have to close for a little while, but it's just a precaution and nothing wrong has been done. It was noticed earlier in the day that the new animatronics facial recognition software had been tampered with too, so he mentions that too. Evidence. The phone message in Night 4 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 describes all of this. At this point, the vengeful spirits inside the animatronics are so angered that yet more children have been murdered, that they're being aggressive toward all the staff, but would never harm children since the spirits are children themselves, which is also alluded to in the phone message. November 12th, 1987. Night 5 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 occurs. By now, the company can no longer cover up no matter how much they pay. The building is put under lockdown by the end of the day, and it's pretty clear that the previous employee was the culprit, and that he may have been involved in the wrongdoing earlier in the company's history. The murder of that one crying child outside, when they're still called Fredbear's Family Diner. Desperate for any further info on the suspected employee, management contacts the previous owner. Due to the suspected employee being on the run now, his day shift becomes available. As Phone Guy mentions in his message to Jeremy this night, after completing his shift, Jeremy receives his paycheck. Evidence. The phone message in Night 5 of Freddy's 2 explains all of this. This is also why I feel that this second murderous employee is the same as the very first one that murdered the lone crying child before getting away. Why else would he want to go contact the company's previous owner if this employee wasn't connected to the old location somehow? November 13th, 1987. Night 6 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 occurs. Jeremy fails to get the memo that the building is on lockdown and goes to work anyway. When the phone guy finds out, he calls him. He ends up revealing more than he should about the incident, saying that someone had sneaked in, used the yellow suit, just like the previous incident, but doesn't go into much detail about that. He confirms that Jeremy will take the day shift the next day because they have one more event planned, a birthday. Jeremy receives his overtime pay, and the local newspaper reports that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza will be closing, but hopes to open eventually. Evidence. The phone message in Night 6 of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and the completion screen at the end described all this. The message also sheds a bit of light about the uniforms. The phone guys tell Jeremy to wear his uniform because he'll be on the day shift, indicating that the overnight security guards probably don't have to wear them. This also makes it probable that all the employees that murdered the children were day shift employees, since they have their purple uniforms on in the animatronics memories. November 14th, 1987. The custom night at Five Nights at Freddy's 2 occurs. With Jeremy on the day shift for the restaurant's final event, and due to many employees quitting over the past few days, after all the horrible incidents that have occurred at the restaurant being brought to light, the company desperately seeks someone to hire, even if it's just for one day. They get a hold of Fritz Smith, who agrees to take the position for a quick buck. Not knowing what he's getting himself into, Fritz has the worst night of his life combating with the haunted animatronics. He tries to dismantle them and gets the foul odor of the old ones all over him in the process. He receives a pink slip the next day indicating that he's fired, which he would have been anyway since the restaurant is closing its doors for good the following day. Anyway, guys, this is just part 1, by the way. That was just the diner and Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is done, so according to the storyline. The next part will be the Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and maybe Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Anyway, You're gonna have to wait for that because this took a long time to edit. I've been here since midday on April 9th, Thursday, April 9th, 2015. And I've been here since 12 o'clock. And it's 3:31 right now. That's how long it took to edit this. Thank you so much for watching. Like it if you subscribe if you enjoyed. I will see you guys in the next video. Tell me if I got anything wrong or you have like a theory about something. I would love to share it. But anyway, like it if you subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.